Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today I'm interviewing Brittany from The Healing Warrior. Brittany is a natural healer, an empath, a traveler and a writer. Currently she has been traveling for 9 months and she's traveling for 2 years with her husband around Asia. She's a true warrior of life. She healed herself from chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and also an autoimmune disease. And she ended up in a Daoist temple in China where she would train for 7 hours per day with a real martial arts master. This is where I met her. This podcast is about her journey from being in bed, not being able to move, and then in the end being able to walk up this huge mountain, which is a 2-hour hike with a big backpack. This is a truly beautiful story of how you can become a warrior from a normal life where you heal yourself. In this podcast, we will introduce how you can heal yourself and how Brittany healed herself with foods. And all the books that are mentioned in the podcast you will find in the notes. I hope you will enjoy it. How did you become interested in healing?
I got interested in healing when I was a small child, and I just felt like, wow, I really want to help people heal. I want them to get better. I was a very sensitive child, so it was very difficult for me to see people in pain or sad. These negative emotions were hard for me to watch, and so I just wanted people to be happy. I wanted them to be healthy, good, and so my parents were like, oh, then you'll be a doctor. And I was like, for all my youth, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a doctor because I'm going to get to heal people.
I recognized this as a child, like this feeling of wanting to help because you could feel how the other people was feeling.
Yeah, I was extremely empathic, very sensitive.
I think there's a lot of people that don't have this ability actually to feel exactly what other people are feeling. Mm-hmm. When did you first know that you had this ability? Like as an adult, of course, not as a child.
I was told even as a teenager, Brittany, you're just too sensitive. Mm-hmm. And I would sometimes see people crying and I couldn't help it. I would start having the tears come and I felt pain. I felt this pain inside my body. And I was like, then it was like even more deep. I was like, okay, my chest, everything's tight, and I'm like, I'm okay in my life right now. Why am I feeling this? And the person beside me, I started talking to them, and they would start saying, actually, like this happened in my life right now, and I'm not in a good place. And I'd be like, okay, so this is coming from them.
So you understood that you were feeling what they were feeling.
Yeah, and even my mom, she would be like, yeah, I understand. She told me, oh yeah, I'm also very sensitive, and so she kind of explained it to me as well in a way. So that I was like, okay, so she understands how I feel. Okay, she's also quite sensitive in certain ways, so I also had like a feedback.
I think there's a lot of young people who have this today, mm-hmm. like growing up now, and that they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm, for me, I'm also an empath, so I also went through this, and I can only say it was I was much older when I actually found out mm-hmm. that I was an empath. I always thought it was my own pain, mm-hmm. so it took me a long time to see that it was coming from someone else. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you suffered from some chronic pain and fatigue in your life.
Yeah.
What is your first memory of like being sick and having struggle?
So, before I got really sick, I had gotten, as a teenager in high school, I had gotten these awful pains in my stomach every day, and it just got worse and worse. And so I went to see the doctor and a specialist, and she was like, okay, yes, you have inflammation in your stomach. So she told me, here, you're going to take these 5 medications every day. And I remember like a couple weeks later I went to see her and I was like, okay, so I'm still not getting better. And she's like, yeah, so basically you're going to have to take these for life. And I was like, this really bothers me, you know? And she's just like, relax, you know? And I'm like, I was the most stressed person on the planet at that time. I was like very, very stressed out. I had a lot of anxiety attacks. It was really bad. And I remember it was about 6 months later, I was in terrible pain. I wasn't getting any better. My grades were really bad because I couldn't focus in class because of the pain. I was missing a lot of classes because I was staying home because of the pain.
And this is like pain in your intestine all the time, stomach pain.
Well, like every time I was digesting, it hurt so much. And since it was all inflamed, the digestion lasts just longer than normally, you know. So it was just, it was really bad. And
what was going through you at this time? Like, how did you feel?
As I said, it was a period where I was extremely stressed out. I mean, like, really badly. And it was
as a teenager, you were stressed out?
Yes.
Why? This is interesting.
Because I wanted to have good grades in school, and the more I was trying to work hard to get the good grades, the more I was exhausting myself, and the more I was stressed because I wasn't getting the results that I was working for, but I was just so tired because I was overworking. I was like crazy, you know, working before classes, at lunch while I was eating. I mean, it was nuts, you know.
Wow, you're like the nerdy girl you see in movies.
yeah, exactly. It was so bad, but you know what? This is my advice to know I should do this. Afterwards, I changed when I got better and I got to go back to school. I worked 3 times less, and my grades went really high up.
So, yeah, I completely agree with you that stress is like really bad for the nervous system and it's bad for the brain. And I think it's like one of the biggest problems in our society right now, that there's such big pressure on people and on especially the young kids that they have to perform, and there is like this, especially in the West, right, this pressure that if you don't have good grades and you don't show the world that you're something special, then you're not really anybody.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that creates like this huge pressure on the young kids today, like huge pressure on who do you want to be and what do you want to do, and naturally they have stress.
Of course, yeah, it was, and you know, there's also competition between students and stuff, so doesn't help either, and pressure to not only be good in school, but you know, I guess being someone that everyone likes, you know, you have this huge pressure as a teenager. And I had been bullied a lot as a child and a teenager, so for me, trying to fit in was like super important. I just wanted to have friends. Yeah, I was like that person before who had 0 friends at school, so I just really, really wanted to be liked. So, you know, between the pressure of that, the stress of trying to do well so I could become a doctor, it was a little bit,
Actually, to me, it sounds kind of terrifying. Like, to be in school and to be bullied and also trying to get good grades and also having stomach problems. It sounds like kind of a lot.
At that time it was a lot for me to deal with. And I had to go through this period of time where I had to like take distance from all of this and ask myself the question, what is really important in my life? And I was really like questioning everything at that time, because I started having these major pains, and then I was like, I'm just a teenager, and I don't want to be someone who's ill all her life. I don't want to be in this fragile state where I can't do anything. You know, I was like, I'm too young for this. No.
And then what did you do then?
So I had this really difficult discussion with my doctor, and I told her that I was stopping the treatments. She wasn't happy about that, but that's what I felt was better at that time, because I wasn't getting better. There was no results. I was actually getting worse at that point. So
and your doctor got angry with you from stopping the treatment?
Yes, absolutely. So, but I listened to my gut, literally,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, what do I need, And thankfully, at that time, there was my boyfriend, who his mom was working for a man who works with energy healing, and I wasn't I had been interested in natural healing for a while, but I was more into plants and oils, breathing exercise. That's sure. Energy healing at that time, I still was like, okay, this is kind of weird. And she was like, yeah, trust me, you should really try it. He could really help you. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to give it a try. Who knows? Maybe it'll work. And I remember my first session where I was wanting to laugh at the beginning, because I was like, this is ridiculous. I have this man with his hand over here, above me, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden I started feeling heat coming from his hands, and I'm like, okay, this is weird,
Wow.
And I was like, and wherever he would pass, he wasn't touching me. He was really far away actually, and I could feel the heat from his hands. And I was like, wow, this is nuts. Wow. And I talked with him about my situation, and so he was like, okay, so for the next few weeks, I want you to not eat anything raw. No raw fruits, no raw veggies. I want them all cooked. It's avoid cereal types of products, bread and that kind of stuff. He's avoid that for the next few weeks, because your intestines are really really sensitive right now. He told me to only eat fish and chicken, but no red meats. It was no sodas, of course, no white sugar.
And at this time, we're eating a lot of this kind of processed food.
Yeah, I was not eating healthy, so he had me change the diet for a few weeks, and he was advising me to do some breathing exercises. So I would go on the internet, or I'd gotten a CD, with guided meditation,
And what kind of meditation would that be? Yoga nidra or chakra meditations, or what would that be?
No, it was actually more of a sophrology type of CD that I had.
Okay.
Whereas you focus on relaxing different parts of your body. You just feel the muscles relaxing, and you go to your happy place.
No.
Basically, you create this world in your mind where you feel safe and good. And so I was really having that moment with each muscle. Okay, I'm all relaxing each part, focus is everywhere, and then okay, I'm in my happy place. Okay, and then I ended up falling asleep before the CD was finished. But it really helped actually.
And can I just ask, at this time you were still in school and you were still having all this pressure, and then you stopped the treatment and you started this natural healing?
So I stopped the treatment, so I think it was around January. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was around January, and so I went to do that, and it was around the same time where I was okay, my schooling is going really badly, and if I continue with the classes, I was I'm going to fail my year. It's not. I was there's just no way, and it's causing me too much stress, and I can't focus on my healing. So what I did is that I organized a meeting with my dean and my head teacher, and my father came, and I was okay, so I'm going to take a break from school, and I'll start back next year fresh once I've healed myself.
And this was your decision, it was not your father's decision?
Oh, no. No, I think he would have been happy if I had tried to, force myself and worked even harder, probably, because he's quite the type of person who's the hard-working type, and don't listen too much to these issues. So I mean, but I was lucky enough that you know, he could have made it worse for me, you know. He could have been so strict where he would have been like, it's out of the question, you know. And
yeah, so what actually happened?
So like, I know he wasn't happy about it, but at least, you know, he came with me to this meeting. The teachers were actually trying to convince me to go to an easier school. And at that time I was starting to get confused, and I was like, yeah, but no. And then my father was like, no, it's out of the question, she's going to stay here, but she'll just take the break, you know. I think it was like the best option, like she'll just take the break like that, she can continue afterwards, you know. Because in Switzerland we have several levels and stuff, and there are easier schools than where I was at, but for me, the best option at that time was to take a break so I could heal my body, heal my state of mind, and just be, you know, finding my calming center, you know.
It's really interesting, like, I've never heard of a teenager who wanted time off school to heal themselves. Like, I think that's really brave, actually.
Well, you see, before that, I had my uncle's wife who was really into all, like, natural healing, and she had already, like, talked about it to me. She had gotten me several books. I had watched documentaries. We even went to, like, well-being fairs, where I met, like, natural healers. So I was already like, oh, this is pretty cool, you know? And actually, what happened, so I went to see the energy healing guy.
Yeah.
And, like, in 1 week, I started getting better. I started getting results.
Wow.
Yeah. Which for me was like, okay, in 6 months, I had 0 results, and here in 1 week, I'm already feeling the difference. I was like, okay, this is nuts, you know?
Yeah.
So I took the break from school at that time. I focused on, like, the guidelines he gave me. I was working on those meditations and stuff, and I was just reading a lot of books at that time about natural healing. And then I went to visit and stay several weeks with my uncle's wife, and we went to see, like, several interesting people. One she did, I remember, like, this test on my blood, and she's like, oh yeah, your cells here are really missing certain nutrients and stuff. So I started taking, like, these vitamins to help, because I wasn't getting enough from the food I was eating. And I met, like, this other woman who did meditation, and I discussed quite a bit with her, and I got her CD. Hers was one of the best ones I remember that really helped me during that time. It's really about pure relaxation, and I think that's what I really needed. And then I also met this other woman, and she was all about living in the present and listening to your intuition. And I discussed a lot with her about intuition. It was really interesting, and she had just wrote a book, and so I read her book, and she even accepted to, like, do, like, a little coaching session with me. And I remember I was telling her, oh, I have all these insecurities, and she started using EFT with me to help with my insecurities.
What is EFT?
So it was where you say, like, affirmations, and you hit slightly like this on certain, like, acupressure points, energy points, and stuff like that. And like, I remember it was like this, that we would do it, and she would make me hit it, like, here.
So you're, like, poking your forehead, poking your cheeks.
Yeah, it was
cheeks and your head.
Yeah, on my
head.
As
you're talking.
And we're, like, saying affirmations and stuff like that. And she had me do that for, like, a while, and it really helped with me, because I had so many insecurities at that time.
Yeah.
Because I had suffered a lot physically, mentally, and I was like, I felt like a failure, because I was like, why is it that I can't just push on like everyone else and work hard and not feel so much stress, you know? So I had a lot of issues with feeling not good enough.
Naturally, I understand, because the society is, like, pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but it sounds like kind of a fairy tale.
Like a fairy tale? No. It's just, it was a long journey, okay? It took a while.
Yeah, like a journey, yeah. Maybe more like a journey. Like, you went through a lot in this year.
Yeah, that was a very intense year, definitely for me. But it really helped because when I went back to school, as I said, it was so much better afterwards. Really, it helped me a lot. Then I did have anxiety that came back because I had new issues to deal with that I didn't have the tools at that time to deal with them.
So what was that?
Relationship issues. You know.
Maybe that's for another podcast.
Yeah, I think so. That's a different story, but that and my journey brought me to a darker path afterwards. So that's also for a different podcast, where at one point I had to suffer even more before I could wake up, basically. But or not. So I had more health issues, but it came later on. So as a young adult, I think about. So I was diagnosed, I think, when I was 24 with an autoimmune disease, Sjogren. And
take me back to the situation. So when you were a young adult, you started being sick again.
Yeah, exactly.
And how did you know that you were sick?
So I was getting more and more tired.
Yeah.
I was exhausted, and I kept seeing like the doctors saying I'm tired all the time, and they're like, "You're just missing iron. It's okay." And so like one of them, because I went to see several doctors because I wasn't getting the answers I wanted, and they wouldn't listen to me when I was like, something is wrong in my body. I know it. And I had one. She gave me spirulina. Another one, he made me take iron for the veins, and it was just, and I took like the extra iron, with vitamins, and it was just, nothing was working.
But how did you know you were sick? Like, could you not get up in the morning?
So at that time, no, at first I was just really tired for starting out.
What do you mean? What does that mean to be really tired?
Like, I would wake up and I felt like I hadn't slept during the night.
Uh-huh.
And it was harder for me to do things that normally wouldn't be difficult. And and then, like, I remember one day I went snowboarding, and I slightly injured myself where someone with her skis, she ran into me, and I went to check at the doctor, and nothing was wrong. No problem. But I was like, I have this pain. I have like lots of pain, and then so I went to see like a physiotherapist. Didn't get better. I went to see another one. It helped a little bit because she was also working with energies and energy healing at the same time. So that started helping a little bit, but as soon as I wasn't like in session with her, the pains would come back. It was like when she was doing it, I was like, oh, I feel relief, and then I would have pain again,
And what would you do? Like, you would be training, moving your body to heal the pain from the surface?
So at first it was like just pain in my back, and then it started getting worse. Like the pain was going into my arm. And I was like, okay, so this makes no sense, And then I could feel it like in my wrist, in my fingers, and I would feel like this line here of pain that would just shoot up into my back. It was more like coming from here actually than from the back, which made no sense. And things were just getting worse. And then I started getting in my legs, and like I would do long walks at that time, a lot of walks every day, and I realized like I'm getting these pains, and I started limping, And in my mind, I was like, no, I'm still going to go on my walks. I don't care. And at one point, it was like after walking for just 5 minutes, I would start limping. Now it wasn't so much pain. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to continue walking out every day because exercise is supposed to make me feel better. It was like that. That was going on in my brain. Like, if I stopped moving my body, I had this fear. I was afraid, like, that I was just going to become a vegetable.
Yeah, that you wouldn't be able to stand up again.
I was like, yeah, and my brain, that was, I think, the worst part for me, was, so I was getting so exhausted, and I started getting afterwards brain fog. So, like, I felt like I was living in a cloud, and even I couldn't stand being with people because when they were talking, I felt like they were just going so fast, and I was like, please slow down. I can't understand what you're saying. It was so hard for me to focus, and when I had to talk to them, it took so much energy out of me that afterwards I had to take a 2-hour nap. And my sleep, that got even worse. I was so exhausted, so I would have to sleep like 10 hours a night, and then during the day, if I didn't take another like 2-hour nap, I would collapse usually.
I think that this is a thing that people with chronic fatigue, they're judged a lot, because people don't understand that you need to sleep more, and that actually sleeping in the night, you don't sleep very well.
No, I didn't sleep well, and like in the morning I was like, I just had to find a motivation to force me to get up, because I didn't want to get up. I was just too tired. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want to be in the sleep state. I couldn't stand it. It was horrible for me because I felt like I wasn't existing anymore. I felt like part of me was disappearing.
Yeah, like you were slipping away from your body.
Yeah, and it was so scary for me. It was really scary, and I was like this young adult, and normally everyone's supposed to be like at their prime time and like feeling great, and I was like, what is happening to me? And the doctors won't listen, and it was just, over the months it just got worse and worse, you know.
For how long were you this sick?
So this badly, it lasted I guess about 9 months. Where it just got, I think, it started around January, and it just got worse and worse. And I think it was maybe around November where I found this other doctor, a new one, where I was telling him, like, okay, like, my back still hurts, it doesn't make sense. And he was like, okay, you know what? He started asking me some other questions, that had nothing to do with my injury. And he actually got interested, like, oh, so do you feel like your eyes are dried a lot? And I'm like, yeah. Your mouth, is it really dry? I'm like, yeah, it's really dried all the time. And he's like, okay. And so you say you're tired all the time? Yeah. And he's like, okay, I just want to do a few blood tests just to check, And then, so around, I think, December or something, I can't remember. I think it was around the end of the year, and I remember that this was a really hard time for me because I had just gotten a phone call from my mom. My aunt had just passed away, and she was going to go to a funeral, but I needed to go to she was like, no, you have your doctor's appointment. It's really important that you know what's wrong with you, and she really pushed me to go to that because he was like really difficult to have an appointment with because he was a specialist. It was really hard. She was like, this is your life, and she was like, even more in this perspective of cherish it, take care of it. And so I went to that, and it was like right afterwards, and there he tells me, like, okay, so you have this autoimmune disease, and he was very serious, very cold about it, and he was like, so this could happen to you in the next few months. You could develop this. Oh, and in the worst case, you can have this. And I was like just freaking out at that point.
What kind of symptoms? Like, what did he say?
So he was telling me, so you could start having lung diseases where you can start coughing for several months without stopping. And then he was like, maybe you could have cancer, but he was like, that's very rare. Don't worry. And I'm just looking at him like, whew, just terrorized,
Yeah.
And
what was going through you? Like, did you have this, like, some people, they have like their life flashing before their eyes and all these kind of things? Like, what were going through you?
Me, oh, wait a minute, just a second, I'm just thinking. He also told me, oh, and generally, your life will be shortened by this. That really freaked me out. So I was in this state of like, oh my God, I'm gonna die young. And I'm like, I was in this state of complete fear, and at the same time I was so desperate, and I was like, why is this happening to me? This is not fair. I was like, I am a good person. I just remember I was saying this in my head, this is not fair. I am the type of person who helps people, and I was like, I was angry. I was angry, I was sad, I was terrified all at the same time, and I was like, just like, at the universe, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
What did I do to deserve this? You know? And it was just a really bad moment for me. And I felt so alone. Very much alone. And because I couldn't deal with social events at that time anymore. It was too hard for me. I was just too tired. So I had like taken distance from my friends. And so, yeah, I had all these emotions. I didn't feel like I could share it with anyone, and it was just really, and I just lost my aunt. I mean, it was just a terrible time in my life. It was not good.
So what did you do like after the doctor's appointment?
So I called I called my best friend who, which we were in a very difficult situation because my best friend was also my ex-boyfriend, and who was very happily in a new relationship, and I was very much also feeling pain from that as well. But I had no one else to call, so it was like, and I tried to call my parents, but I didn't want to cause them more pain than what they were going through already. My mom had just lost her sister, and so I was trying to not make it more like, I didn't want to put my emotions on her.
No.
So I tried to be as neutral as I could be. I just didn't want to cause her any more pain. And I just had this phase where I just went back home. And the doctor had told me before I left to do some research on the treatment that exists, which it's not a real treatment. It's just that it's just medication that you can take that basically attacks your immune system, so it stops attacking your own body.
Wow.
And what I found out was that it was a medication that you take for life, and your body gets used to it, so you have to take it more and more. And it was pretty expensive, naturally, and it also had quite a few side effects that I wasn't happy with. And I didn't like the fact of having something like going against my immune system, you know. It's just, I was like, I need this. What if there's something else that comes around? I need to be able to protect myself. I mean, I know that it's going against me, but it's still useful, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got home and I was like, okay, what can I do? In my head, I was like, so do I just stand here and continue crying and stay in my black hole? I just had like this voice inside my head. I was like, really like a tough version of me saying, okay, you're going to stay in this black hole down here. Yeah, you're all alone and you don't feel good. It's dark, it's scary. What are you going to do about it?
Mm.
And I was like, just like this mini version of me, like, I want out of here, you know? And his voice was like, okay, so now what do you want to do? Do you want to stay here or do you want to climb up? Yeah, that climb is going to be hard. It's going to hurt. Yeah, because you know you have to grab onto the sides. Yeah, you know it's going to hurt your hands and stuff. It's going to take a lot of strength. You're going to have to really do a lot for this. But once you get up there, you'll see the light. When you're up there, you're going to feel better. And I was like, okay, what do I do to do this? You know, I was like, I had this like inner conversation, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of badass Brittany came to the rescue or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It was like this, my warrior version of myself over here, like, come on, like, move it. And I was like, but I'm scared. So it was like this whole conversation internally going on. And so I was like, okay, what? So, or I cry, or I can start doing research. That's all I can do right now. Like, I don't know what will heal me, what will make me feel better. All I know is I can do some research. So, like, a lot of times I had, like, periods of time where I variate between my brain fog and like, times where I could actually focus on certain things.
Yeah.
So those moments where I could actually focus on something, I would take advantage of them to do research. So at first I did the research on what he suggested, and I didn't like it. And then I started thinking, okay, what if there's like natural ways to heal? So I started doing my research, and I saw these people who were saying, oh, my symptoms got so much better after I started changing my diet and working on these different like lifestyle changes. And I was like, wow, okay, so this is really interesting. And I saw that there were books, so I ordered the books immediately.
Yeah.
And
can you just enlighten what kind of books was this, like about what, food or oils or?
So yeah, there were books about these doctors who had gotten autoimmune diseases and who healed themselves in a natural way.
Mm.
So there was, for example, the Wahls protocol, who was a woman who actually was in a wheelchair, and she got to the point where she could bicycle ride.
Wow.
Yeah. So her was really amazing.
And no medicine, no...
So she tried like everything before and nothing was working. And even when she first started changing her diet, it wasn't working in the beginning. It worked when... So she started eating like the way our ancestors were eating. But it worked really when she started adding like the 9 cups of vegetables. So basically each day she would eat 3 cups of colored vegetables of like the different colors, and then 3 cups of sulfur type of vegetables, you know, like garlic, onion, cauliflower, that kind of stuff, and then 3 cups of leafy greens. She actually did a lot of tests on her own body, so that's why I was like, wow, this is really amazing. A doctor who she tried all the other stuff, it wasn't working, and like she went this way and she started seeing all these differences in herself. And to the point where she could like not only walk but bicycle ride. I was like, this is amazing. And so she talked about this. I read another book about the Paleo mom. She also wrote like a huge book with like so much information. There was the Autoimmune solution. I mean, like there's several of these books that really I was just like reading all of it, like underlining important passages. I put little post-its in it, and I printed out several documents that I underlined like the important parts, and I had like this huge bag full of information that I was like, okay, taking this to a doctor with me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I went to my next appointment with like, I had this big bag full of info, and I was like, so I did the research, and he's like, oh, very good. And I'm like, here, so I found all of this. And I just started like putting everything on his desk.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, so this is really good. It's in a natural way, so you just have to change your lifestyle, change your diet. So it was basically saying to eat an anti-inflammatory diet.
Yeah.
And it was like I explained to him. So it's not like long term. You eat this way until your symptoms have gone down, and then you add one food at a time to see what your body tolerates or doesn't. Because the problem is that usually when you have this, you have a lot of food intolerances, which I discovered I had, which was the problem. Because even at that time, I had started eating healthy, but even healthy foods, sometimes your body can't tolerate it. So for me, for example, I had like lentils and beans and stuff like that. My body did not do well with them.
And that's interesting. That is actually an individual thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was really like to do a period of time where you kind of like take out lots of foods. You eat like how our ancestors ate, and then you just add like one food at a time. It was called the Autoimmune Paleo diet, and for me, it really helped doing this. So that came after, actually.
Yeah,
Sorry.
What did the doctor say? You put all these books
so
on
all
this
these
table.
books, all these information. I was like, I'm ready. Okay, I did my research. And he's like, so what do you think about the medication? And I was like, oh, no, I don't like it. And he's like, what? I'm like, no, I read about it, so I saw this I didn't like, in the what's inside. And it says it has these side effects. I was like, I don't like this option. I would like to try this option first. And he's just looked at me. And he refused to look at the documents. And he said, I remember he was like telling me, this is very negative of you. I was like, what? Yeah, I was so confused. It's like, these are just people who are trying to take advantage of you. They just want to take all your money. It's like, but it's just about changing your diet and your lifestyle. I did buy the books, yeah, a few of them, but that's it. Like, I'm not going to give them any more money. I was like, but the medication, that's something for life. And he's like, no, these are charlatans. Don't believe anything. It doesn't work. Blah blah.
No way.
Yeah, he would not like believe anything. He didn't want to look at it. He was saying I was being very negative about the medication. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of left the office like in shock, and I went to see another doctor afterwards, and who is a little bit more open-minded. And I was telling him, okay, so these are my options. And he was like, well, I cannot deny what you're saying. But he was like trying to be diplomatic because he's a doctor and all. But he was telling me like, this indeed has lots of side effects, this medication does. And this, he was like, I do believe that for you, this would be actually quite bad in the long term. And then he was like, at first, I think it would be better for you to try a more like natural approach. And so he retested me just to make sure I really did have that autoimmune disease. So I had like 2 people who diagnosed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agreed with him. I was like, this is good to check up just to make sure that he didn't make a mistake,
And can I ask one question, like, because why did you have the idea to continue to see a doctor when you were not taking the approach that the doctors were suggesting to you?
Because I didn't trust him after the way he was acting. He was too emotional, too more like, I just felt like he wanted my money more than anything. And so this other one was, he also specialized like in homeopathic medicine and stuff like that. So I'm like, maybe someone who's more like open-minded, maybe he'll also have a point of view that's interesting for me for my healing journey. I just, at that time I just needed guidance. And luckily I did do that because, I think it reassured me to have someone confirm the situation and who was on my side, and who was actually listening to what I was saying.
Yeah.
So,
what did that bring you actually?
I was like, okay, after all this time I was right. There is something wrong with me. And then I'm like, oh, that's bad. But I was like, at least now I know what I have, and I found some things that could help make me feel better. By being able, I didn't want to have the medication. I just wanted to know exactly what I had, and I wanted to heal in a natural way. So the doctors did confirm this for me, and then I did get to try this out. So it was an easy path for me because I do love sugar. Naturally, this type of diet demands you to not eat sugar.
Wow. So, at all, like you cannot have sugar at all.
Yeah, it was, but you could still have like some fruits, so thankfully there was that, and like sweet potatoes, so.
What about like dates and sweet, like dried fruit, you can have that or no?
Yeah, but I tried to not eat too much of it because it was still higher in sugar, and they did advise to go with fruits like blueberries, strawberries, those kind of things that have a lower sugar intake. So I did try to have those, that also to have a variety of colors and stuff like that. And sometimes I would eat like dried cranberries.
Okay.
When I was desperate. That was like my thing. Okay, when I couldn't handle the lack of sugar, I was like, I'm going crazy. And I would be like, okay, here, I'm going to just eat some dried cranberries, I was desperate, It's hard when you're a sugar addict, okay?
I for sure can understand, like, I don't know what my life would be like without chocolate and coffee. So
yeah,
I think anyone can understand that we need something to nurture ourselves also.
Yeah, but you see, at that time, I got really creative. Okay? Oh. Yeah, because I was like, okay, I can't have the things that, I usually try to jump on. So let's make a healthier version of these foods, that I used to like.
Yeah.
That's when I got really interested in like sweet potato fries, which I loved. I started making kale chips. I made what was it, like a mushroom hamburger kind of thing. Instead of the bread, I used these big mushrooms.
Yeah, like the big mushrooms.
Yeah, and I started eating, like, instead of like a sugary sauce, I started making guacamole all the time, and I would use this as a sauce all the time. And I got obsessed with banana plantains. You know?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so it's like, it looks like a banana, but if you cook it in the oven with like some olive oil and some sea salt, it's like a chip. It's salty.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was so good. So I'd make these like plantain chips, and then I would just dip it in guacamole.
Wow, it sounds like my favorite diet. Doesn't sound too bad. But what actually healed you? Like what? You went to the doctors. You did all this. Like what? Yeah. What diet?
So I followed this diet for several months.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, after a few weeks, not like at the very beginning. At the very beginning, actually, I also had like the detox effect.
Yeah. Headaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Pains.
So, but after a few weeks, I was like, my pain is like getting lower. I started noticing, I was like, wow, I don't have as many hours as usually in the day, because I would have a lot of pain that would go out from my whole body. And there, all of a sudden, I'm like, my hand, wow, I don't feel any pain in my hand. I was like, this is great, So that really motivated me to continue. And so I did that, and until at one point, I was like, I didn't have hardly any pains anymore unless I stressed a lot, or if I majorly cheated on my diet, which happened, I think, because it was Christmas time, and I remember I splurged on stuff I wasn't supposed to, and I was like, I regret it the next day, but unless I had those, I was getting so much better. Brain fog went down. So I just had one thing that continued. So my fatigue, it got better, but it didn't completely disappear. But it was much better. I could sleep more normal hours like I used to before. I didn't need to take like super long naps in the afternoon. I wasn't like falling asleep on my desk, which happened a lot before. Like literally, I was at my desk reading something, and I don't know, I would fall asleep.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that bad. And that wasn't happening anymore. So I was like, yay, I'm okay. I don't have any pains. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm like, it was nothing compared to before. So I was like really happy about that, And I had, during that time, so I worked really a lot on the food issue.
Yeah.
I had let myself get stressed as well because I wasn't happy with the way I was living my life at that time, and I was doing a lot of relaxation exercises, but also I was meditating a lot, so that helped. I was doing the Zazen practice.
I don't know what that is.
So Zazen is Japanese meditation where you're sitting up facing a blank wall, and you're like about 1 meter away from it. Basically with your eyes like half open, and just like look down at the ground, and whenever you have thoughts coming by, you kind of just let it go like a cloud, So it was like I was practicing this, and I was practicing stretching exercises. I had a new physiotherapist, which was the best one I had at that time, was working with me. He even helped me with acupuncture. He was really good. So he was helping me deal with the pains. So for those weeks where I was working with the nutrition, as I said, it took about like 4 months to have like excellent results for me.
Yeah.
Like after a few weeks, it got better, but for getting really good results, it took about, I think, 4 months basically. And so during that time, I had this physiotherapist working with me, and he had these exercises for me I would do every single day outside of session, but I would see him every week. And so I was like doing this. I was doing lots of breathing exercises. I was working on my sleep to get it better. And with the food did a huge work for me, really.
And what kind of food was that?
So that was the Autoimmune Paleo,
Yeah.
as I was explaining before. Focusing on having like 3/4 of your plate of vegetables.
Yeah.
So for me that was a huge difference because I was eating a lot of like quinoa, beans, lentils before, and so I didn't have that many veggies actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I switched to having like 3/4 of my plate of these.
Like in all of your meals or two of your meals? Or?
Two of my meals, but also had for breakfast. I started switching it up, so I would have like a few blueberries with some spinach leaves and some eggs.
Yeah.
I would eat that regularly. Wait a minute, not in the beginning. Sorry, not in the beginning. I wasn't eating eggs. I had actually taken them out to see if my body tolerated them or not. That came afterwards when I reintroduced them. So, wait a minute. Let me try to remember what was I eating back then, besides like spinach and berries. I would sometimes eat like sweet potato because it still has like a sweet taste, so it helped me transition.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. And I would sometimes have smoothies, but then I discovered after a while that my stomach didn't deal well with smoothies, so I had to like switch things up. Sometimes I would actually eat a meal for breakfast, something that I would just reheat that I had ate like for lunch or dinner the day before.
Okay. Just to make it easy on yourself.
Exactly. If I was tired and stuff, I just reheat something that I hadn't finished.
Yeah.
But then, I just try to find solutions that would make me less cranky, As I said, I try to get creative at that time. And there was a lot of recipes online, so that really helped a lot.
So what you told me before is that you had one struggle with this diet that was hurting more like on an emotional level.
Yeah, the sugar.
Yeah, but also the animals.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Sorry. Since it was also like our ancestors were eating, there was meat included.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I did feel a difference. It made me feel better physically. Emotionally, I felt guilty. So I try to like look at things and then like try to find new solutions. So if before I would eat meat, I would just get it at the store, at the supermarket, like anybody else. I didn't really, know that much. At one point, I did start eating like organic meat, but I didn't know everything that it was involved behind it.
Yeah, you didn't know the situations of like how animals are produced.
Exactly, And so at that time, I was looking for solutions and for me to get healthier, but so that the animals were in a situation where they were just locked up in a small place all their lives and just filled up with hormones so that they can grow faster.
And antibiotics.
And that kind of stuff, yeah. And so, for starters, in this diet, they do ask of you to be to eat more like parts of the meat that most people don't want and throw away.
Mm.
So like organ meats, bone broth, so the bones. So those are parts that are very much neglected but are full of nutrients, much more than the normal pieces that people eat.
Okay.
So in one way I was like thinking about our ancestors. They didn't kill animals just to kill them, and it was to survive. And they would do it when they could eat the whole animal. They would kill the animal at that time for like special occasions and stuff. And they wouldn't like throw away anything.
And they would probably share it also with everyone. Like
exactly.
If you think about it, it was probably a small village, right? And if you slaughter an animal, you'll share with everyone.
Exactly. And so I found this farm where you could order like certain pieces, and they would call you when they were ready to sell it, because they had like everyone asking for a different piece of it, and it was like the full animal. And then they would call me so I could come and pick it up. So in a way that helped me, because there were first of all animals that were living outside. They were eating grass. They weren't being filled with all these medications. They could have their happy lives outside, you know.
And could you see the animals? Like, was it possible to see them having a good life?
So those I didn't go see, but I knew the people from there, so I trusted them.
Nice.
And but like typically, there was another farmers where I could go see the cows, where they did do the same thing. It's just that the other ones I knew them, so that's why I went to them.
Yeah,
but
naturally.
I know that it's not like something that's unusual for us in Switzerland, because I was like surrounded where I lived at by different farmers who would do that.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing is also the reason why I didn't a couple of them is because you needed to order like a certain quantity for them. They wouldn't like wait as long. So you'd have to get like a lot more, and there was like not enough room in my freezer, you see. So them it was easier to deal with. Yeah. And somehow for me, it did help to know that, you know, they were in that situation, living outside, and it wasn't like to be wasted. It's not like this wanting, oh, I just want this part, you know. And yeah, I kind of thought about like, you know, how Indians would do it before, or like in Mongolia, a lot of them, they have herds with them, and you know, I saw documentaries on how it happens with them, and I was like, okay, I'm looking at these cultures that live in or like how they used to live, or how they're still living now, and I'm like, okay, they're doing this in respect of the animal, and it's for them to survive, and psychologically that did help me somehow, because in one way I really needed it to heal, which even like later on we discovered in China with our teacher who told us with traditional Chinese medicine. He's like really into vegetarian food, but he's like, if you have a serious illness, you need that meat to give you the nutrients to repair your body and to heal faster and stuff. And I think there's certain times in your life where you do need it, you know. But if you can look for solutions that are more
ethical,
yeah, exactly, then go for it, you know. Do that. It's better for them. It's much better for you. You'll get much more nutrients actually, because it's from like these organs and stuff like that, and it's also they're not going to be full of medication. So, you know, what you eat is also what the animal you ate. So
exactly.
That's also like you have this circle, you know. But yeah, it was quite a journey for me, you know.
Yeah, and emotionally.
Yeah.
Because as you told me, as a young adult and even as a child, you were such an empath.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, harming others is difficult for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My grandfather used to tell me as a child that I was way too sensitive. I loved him, but like it was so bad. He wanted to bring me to a butcher's place so I would stop being so sensitive. Yeah, because he was like this. He grew up on a farm, and he was like really tough.
Old school,
yeah. I'm so grateful that my mom didn't let him do that to me. I think I would have been traumatized for life. Big time.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have helped a lot.
No. But it would have been tough.
It's really interesting for me to hear this story about you not being able to move, and then knowing you now, like this person that I met in a temple, training every day, and also now actually like just seeing you walking around every day and having a normal life.
Yeah.
So it's like So you healed yourself with food.
Yeah, but that took a while because
Yeah.
actually afterwards, so I discovered that I could have like a cheat meal every so often, but it was only like very seldomly, like maybe once every 2 months. And if I tried to do more than that, I would have symptoms.
Wow.
But then the more time passed, the more I healed my body, the more I could permit myself to be more stable, but I could be more lenient with myself, which also helped out because after a while I was stressed by eating too healthy, you know?
Yes.
So when I started discovering, oh, wait, my body can handle a little bit more being lenient, so I was like, okay, so that helped me find a balance food-wise, you know?
So I guess that at some point, if it's this intense, you would have kind of fear of eating.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one, when I had to start reintroducing foods, I didn't want to do it first because I had gotten used of this way of eating. I knew exactly what I was allowed to have, and I was like, okay, I'm good, I healed with this. So then when they're like, okay, if you stop having all these symptoms, then you can start reintroducing. I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this, you know? And it just took a while. Mentally, I had to like tell myself, okay, be brave, you know, try this. And, you know, along the way, it was a process that took a while, but it, you know, if you do step by step, it's not so overwhelming either.
That's very interesting, and also it shows me actually that you're very patient. I remember when
Tell that to my husband.
I remember when I had chronic inflammation in my intestine, and everyone was telling me to slowly introduce all this food. I was not being very patient, and I think at some point I stopped eating. Like I just only ate what I liked. I did not want to introduce new stuff.
Yeah.
But it didn't help me a lot because then I didn't know which kind of food was actually giving me problems.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I guess in your way, now you know what kind of food it is if you have a symptom.
Yeah. But also, like there's certain foods that I can eat now that before I could not eat at all.
And what's that?
Like, I've been able, only now, okay, it's been just since a few months, I think, from the temple that I've started like eating bread again. I wasn't eating bread before, okay? No. I couldn't. Now I can. Yeah. It's not something that I want to eat as much. Right now I don't really have a choice because we're in Nepal and what we eat is like there's not many options for us right now. But at least I know I can eat it without getting sick like I used to. And
I guess that's important, right? Otherwise you would be afraid all the time because we have to eat.
Yeah. What I was afraid until they started changing in the kitchen their food was for the spices. I know that I'm highly intolerant to red spices, for example. Yeah. It's really tough on me. As you know, one time I ended up in the hospital because of chili. So now I'm like very careful with the spices. And thankfully now they've changed their cooking methods, but like I wasn't eating the foods in the beginning that they were giving me because that has stayed one of the very fragile foods for me. You know, there's certain foods that have stayed long term, and I know that I'm gonna have to wait maybe several years before I can reintroduce it, or maybe I'll never get to reintroduce it.
Maybe.
There's other foods like bread where for a long time I could not deal with it. Now it seems to be okay. I still would prefer when we get back to like a normal type of diet where we get to choose what we want. I would prefer eating less than that. I feel very heavy by eating the bread, but I don't feel sick like I used to.
And today you're vegetarian as well, right?
I've been eating vegetarian for several months now, yeah. But it happened quite gradually, actually. You know, when I left for my trip, so that was in July, 1st of July I left, yeah. And
so just to make the listeners more understanding of your life situation right now, you're traveling around Asia for 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you started traveling, when did you start to travel?
So I started traveling at the 1st of July. I arrived in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And there it was vegetarian food that we had.
Yeah.
But I had been taking like supplements for like the iron and all that, you know, beforehand to prepare myself. And then when we went to Thailand, I kind of like ate, I would say, 3/4 of time like vegetarian, and then I would eat like shrimp or fish.
Mm-hmm.
I had actually stopped for before I left for my trip. It had been a while. I had stopped eating like red meats.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I had been continuing more like with bone broth and fish mainly.
Yeah.
Those were fish and shrimp, and then bone broth. That was my protein type of food I would have.
So actually you started being fully vegetarian when you came to a Daoist temple in China?
Before that, when I arrived in China, that's when, because in Thailand and Japan, it was like just part of the time where I just have, like, as I said, the fish, and then when I arrived in China, I just started at that time eating completely vegetarian.
And why did you choose that?
Why did I choose that? That is a good question. Because I saw that I was doing okay, you know, with like less.
Yeah.
Before I was eating much more, and then with less I was doing okay. So I was like, okay, and I knew that at the temple we were going to eat completely vegetarian for 2 months. So I was like, I seem to be doing okay. I still have some supplements to help me out. That's what I did. I was compensating with supplements. To like just help things to prepare my body and stuff, and then little by little, gradually, like I realized that, you know, I was doing fine. I don't feel as balanced now because, as I said, we don't have a lot of variety.
Yeah, so for you, like the different kind of vegetables is the most important part of your daily meal.
That I feel like I'm missing a lot with nuts. That is really important for me. Different types of nuts, seeds, I need those, you know. And there's certain foods that we got to eat, like when we were in Bali before coming here, that I could find easily, and it would help balance it out. Now we've been here for 2 months, I do feel like my body is lacking nutrients. I have had a couple moments with flare-ups. Yeah. And I believe it's because of the diet. It's not suiting me right now. But we don't have a choice. So we're on lockdown here.
Yeah, so on lockdown here, we can't really do anything.
Yeah. But I'm still happy with how my body's dealing. I have been feeling, yes, more tired than usual as well. But compared to how I was before, I still haven't gone back like completely to the way I used to be.
No, not at all. No. Like just you sitting here talking with me, you don't seem like to have any brain fog. brain fog. Yeah. So I remember that we met in this Daoist temple in China. Yeah. And it's for me, it's very clear the climb up this huge mountain. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like 2-hour climb, and you have like all your equipment, and then you come up to this temple, and it's like really hard place to live. And right now I'm actually kind of surprised, like how did you manage to go through that with all this health history?
Yeah, so as I said, I was like diagnosed I think around 24, and
how old are you now?
So now I'm 29.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we went, I was still 29. And so that was, you know, a few years for me to work on my healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And between time, I had like steps. First, it was like kind of living outside of society, you know, in my own little bubble, just working on my healing because, you know, I was at that time, when I was healing myself, I wasn't working. I was just like, just trying to heal myself and even like work on what did I want to do in life, what were my goals. It was like this whole process of seeing what I didn't want in my life anymore and what I did want to add to my life, because that was also a source of stress for me.
Yeah.
You know, which I tried to like get rid of completely. And that took actually a very long process, just like the food, to get rid of all the sources of stress, you know.
And how did you do that?
So I had to, as I said, make a list, you know. Okay, this I don't want in my life. This I want in my life. So then I had to take steps. Okay, how do I get rid of the things that I don't want anymore, but I'm still like obligated to have? Do I need to change my state of mind about it, or can I get rid of it? You know, I was kind of like in this whole process about this.
Basically, you made a pro and con list, and you acted out from it. Like you actually pushed some stuff out of your life.
Yeah, but I didn't do everything at the same time. Certain things took longer than others. Some things took like 2 years before I could finally get rid of them. And some things were much faster. And then I added things that I enjoyed and that I wasn't doing. And I was at the same time working on the food, working on my sleep, meditation, getting rid of anything that polluted my body. Like I wasn't very much, into being very glamour girl or anything, but it would happen for like special occasions. I would put, maybe some perfume or some nail polish. That went to the trash, basically.
Wow.
It was like anything that could pollute my body, I was like, goodbye, So this took actually, it was quite a big journey. And then I had this whole state of mind of, I want to become this warrior woman. And I was inspired, okay? As a teenager, I watched Xena the Warrior Princess, Buffy, and all these warrior women fighting on screen. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And besides reading books about health, which I was reading a lot at that time, I was also reading, I was watching the movie from Bethany Hamilton, who had gotten her arm eaten by a shark, and while she was surfing, and she went right back into the water as soon as she could. And I was like, wow, if that woman can do that, I can do anything as well,
Wow, yeah.
I looked for inspiration around me. I found this one book about this woman. Her name's Lindsey, and she wrote about her story about going to this temple, and the one that we went to, and I was like, oh, wow, she's really inspiring. She's like a kick-ass kind of woman. I was like, yeah, I want to do the same thing. And since I was a teenager, since I really wanted to learn how to be this warrior woman, as an adult, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make this happen, And I just took the steps little by little. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do to be able to get to this point?
Yeah.
I need to heal myself enough so I could actually live in society. I started working again when I got better. I healed myself enough for that, and which made me be able to put money aside to realize my dream. Also, since a teenager, I wanted to go traveling a lot. That takes money as well. So I was healing myself, and I was starting to work a little bit, not full time, but I was working, enough for to put, some money aside.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going out to the movies or doing things like go bowling and stuff like that, or go out to eat at restaurants, which I hadn't been doing really because I was always cooking for myself in a very healthy way,
Of course, you couldn't really eat out.
So, yeah. But I was seeing my friends again, and luckily they were very supportive of me. They tried to make foods that my body could tolerate, so that was really wonderful. And so I was just putting things into place. I started exercising again, not just doing, I was walking and doing stretching exercises to help heal my body, so it was very light stuff. Yeah, for me, I was in the state of mind, even if I can only walk for 10 minutes, yeah, I'm going to be in pain, but I've walked 10 minutes today. That was my state of mind. And I'm going to do this stretch. Okay, like this is nothing. For me, that was really a lot. Just to do like this very basic small movement where you switch sides with your shoulders. That kind of stuff was painful.
Wow.
So I was like just starting out small, and then I would push myself. Okay, can do just a little bit more today, you know?
It's just so surprising because I've just seen you, you know, do jumping and kicking and pushing people around and fighting in a temple, so...
Well, it's just that you take things at a time. You can't be like in a hurry. You take what your body can handle, but you just push it just a little bit more than what you could do the day before. And if you can't, that's okay. You know, I needed to learn how my body functioned. I needed to like have this better communication with it, because when you have an autoimmune disease, your body's attacking yourself. So something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, like, for a couple years before I got it, I wasn't living the life I wanted, and I was very unhappy with myself. And not only did I have to change the things where I wasn't happy because I was making myself angry, but I had to like learn how to listen to my body. That was so important.
It's a very important message for you, but also for all in life.
Yeah.
At this time, I think there's a lot of us who only live in the head.
Yeah. So you have to listen to it like when you're training, okay, and not be like, oh, I'm just feeling tired, I'm just going to be lazy. No, it's like you try, and if you see like in a few minutes that you're not getting any better, you're just getting worse and worse, then there you're like, okay, today my body needs a rest. I'm going to rest. And I just started with light things. Then I started doing like Pilates.
Yeah.
Light Pilates, okay? Not like intensive. And I just got a little bit more. I was walking more time outside. I started like trying to play games to make myself, motivate myself to do more. You see, I just got creative with things. And you just move things up, and between like starting to work, starting to like exercise more and more, and
watching women on screen fighting vampires.
Yeah, that's really important, okay? For me, I always thought they were really amazing women, so I was like, oh, I want to do this someday.
I obviously also saw Buffy, so don't worry.
Okay. I'm a total nerd. I've always been a nerd, and this actually has helped me a lot. Yeah. Because even though I know it's not real, but I know that there are some women who still can, kick butt and stuff, so I'm like, yeah, I can be like this, not to be violent. I just want to feel strong. That was really important for me because I felt weak for so long. I felt weak when I got bullied in school. I felt weak from being sick, and I was tired of feeling weak. This is something that really motivated me so much. I wanted to become strong. Physically, mentally, I wanted this empowerment.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to feel, like in touch with my goddess self. I wanted to be like this warrior woman who could just surpass anything, no matter what happens. And that's it. I've had emotional problems and physical and even trauma that's happened in my life. Every time I come back to the same spot, do I want to stay at the bottom of this hole? Or do I want to climb back up? Yeah, I have to do it again. But that's okay because I'm going to see the light again. And that's what motivates me. I want to feel good again.
Wow.
It's
really inspirational. And I guess that's why you had courage to walk up that mountain.
Yeah, that mountain. Okay, I kind of felt... Oh, it was funny. Okay. Did you ever watch Kung Fu Panda?
Of course.
Okay, so you see that moment where Po, he's like at the bottom of those stairs, and he's like, my old enemy, the stairs, and that's how I felt when I saw it, because they weren't like easy steps. They were like these really like different size steps, and there were rocks, and and I had this huge bag on the back and in the front. I think I had like 20 kilos on me, which is a lot. And actually, for me, it took 3 hours to get up there.
No way.
I took the wrong way. I took the long way by accident because I didn't know where I was going. So, so it was even worse. At one point, there was these steps that was on the long way, and they're like really steep, and I was crawling up with my bags.
No.
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, it was so bad. Actually, I think it was about 15, 20 minutes before we got up there, and there was this Chinese couple that was there, and that had caught up to us. And the man was like, "Would you like me to help you carry your bag?" And I'm like, I had this inner conflict, like, "Please do, please save me." And then the other part was like, "No, I didn't know how much time I had left, but I suspected that I didn't have more than 30 minutes left." But even then, I was like, "Oh, please save me." And then the other part was like, "Come on, this is not for anybody else. You're doing this for yourself. This is a test. This is your first test upon arriving here, okay? If you can't do this, how are you going to be able to survive training several hours a day?"
Wow, you have a really hard inner voice. Like an inner trainer or something. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so, but you didn't give him the bag then?
I didn't give him the bag. I finished the walk, and when I arrived there, I felt like I was gonna die because it took so long. It was so heavy, but when I got there, I was like, I did it, and I felt like so proud of myself. I was so ecstatic. I was like, wow. I went from being in my bed, hardly not moving, practically becoming a vegetable, to be able to come up a mountain with 20 kilos on me. This is insane.
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, you see, for me, this was already huge without doing what we did afterwards, you know? Without that, just this part was for me amazing.
It's a huge achievement.
Yeah, and I felt alive. That was so important for me to feel alive. And to be able to do something that proved, you know what, I'm not this weakling. I am a strong woman, you know? That was for me like just a beautiful moment, actually. Yeah. And then the training, that was, yeah, crazy.
I think that we will make an entire podcast about like your experiences in the temple and what happened there, but I remember being your roommate. And you every day getting up, almost crying, and not wanting to move, and getting up anyway in the cold, going out to run, and even the days where because I couldn't get out, I was sick and...
Yeah, you were sick.
I was sick.
Yeah.
But even though I wouldn't get up, you would still get up every day.
Yeah, but no, you were sick now, so I mean, you know, you even had fever quite a few days.
Yeah, I was suffering on a different level.
Yeah, but no, we went through quite a journey. For me, it felt like we were there so much longer than just 2 months.
Yeah.
And
like alive together.
Yeah, and it felt like this was a huge transformation, actually. And it made us so much stronger, both you and I.
Both of us.
Yeah. So yeah, I think if the people who are listening to this are interested in knowing about how it was to live in this temple, training like crazy every day, what was this like, then say in the comments and we can maybe do a video about that, or
for sure we can
make a podcast.
Thank you, Brittany, for sharing your story. Just the last question, which is the last question that I really want to ask. What is a warrior to you?
Okay, so for me, a warrior is not someone who just, someone who fights just to prove that they can fight, and show that they're the strongest. For me, a warrior, a true warrior, is someone who, no matter what happens, they will fight to get better, to accomplish their goals in life, their dreams. It's people who won't listen to others who are being negative and telling them, you can't do this, you're a loser. They will not listen to all that negativity. They have a goal in mind, they will go for it. And if they're scared, they'll still try. Like, even if they're shaking, they'll still do it. And yeah, maybe they want to run away, but they'll be brave. And they will do anything it takes to get there. For me, someone who just lives with their heart and will be doing anything to get into their inner light, you know, who will take all that inner strength to move forward in their lives. For me, that's what a true warrior is.
And with that, thank you for this podcast. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste. Thank you so much.